Dante's Boxing Nation, let's go ahead and get into it. You know, guys, originally I started to make a breakdown video for the Quillen versus Rosado fight a while ago. I started on it and got busy and never finished it. And the damn fight came so fast, I didn't even realize it was too late to make the video. But anyway, in that video, I basically expected Peter Quillen to win this fight, but I expected Peter to win this fight in a dominant fashion. I expected this to be another progression type performance because Peter Quillen, he's had his flaws, but I was thinking that every single fight that I seen him in, he was progressing slowly but surely. Okay? Now, after watching the fight, I have to say, guys, I was pretty disappointed with Peter Quillen's performance. I wasn't impressed at all. For Peter Quillen to have such an appetite for destruction, a guy who swings with sledgehammers, and he loves the knockout. You could just see his face expressions when he throws these punches. He loves the knockout. But for a guy like that, this man does not know how to fight in the inside. And that was really surprising to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. Gabe Rosado is a good fighter. But Gabe Rosado is not supposed to be on the level of an elite champion. And I think Golovkin, he showed that. And what Peter Quillen showed me is that he is not an elite champion or an elite fighter. At least not yet. He still has a lot of work to do. But what I didn't like is Peter Quillen, he wasn't able to control Gabe Rosado in the ring. He was letting Rosado control him. He was letting Rosado fight more of Rosado's fight as opposed to Peter Quillen fighting his own fight. Peter Quillen was supposed to keep the fight in the center of the ring. He was supposed to either keep the fight in the center of the ring or he was supposed to be the one backing up Rosado. It didn't make sense that Rosado was backing up Peter Quillen. And on top of it, it seemed from minute to minute of each round, Peter Quillen, he didn't know what he was going to do next. It just looked like he was just moving around and it was all sporadic. Like he was just, guessing. He was freestyling of what to do next, right? And to me, that reminds me of a new inexperienced boxer coming into the gym to just start training. And, he gets in the ring and he's sparring and he's basically just freestyling. He's just doing whatever comes to mind, right? He has no game plan. He doesn't really know how to set up anything yet. And that's what I've seen with Peter Quillen. He had no ring generalship and he was getting controlled. And when he got backed up to the ropes, he would clinch. And as opposed to like a Floyd Mayweather or even like Bernard Hopkins did against Morat, sit there and fight in the inside, set up traps. All right? I mean, every now and then, of course, Peter Quillen, he would throw a hard hook. He would throw one hard uppercut, but it would be one and done. And then he would try to tie up Gabe Rosado, which was very disappointing to me because, like I said, once again, Peter Quillen is a knockout artist. Peter Quillen loves the knockout, but how the hell are you going to be a knockout artist and you don't even know how to fight in the inside and you're uncomfortable in the inside? I mean, Quillen wasn't even doing good from the outside. He didn't even have a game plan. If you look at Peter Quillen versus Rosado, Quillen is long. He's rangy. He has long arms. He's a little bit taller than Rosado. He didn't use his reach. He didn't show too much of a consistent jab, double jab, and follow it up with a right hand. He was just constantly waiting. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said before, I know Rosado is a good fighter, but expectations were set higher for Peter Quillen. Peter Quillen was supposed to win this fight relatively easy, just like Golovkin did. Okay? I didn't agree with the stoppage. I think it was stopped premature. I agree with Rosado. This is a championship match, and, the blood wasn't all in Rosado's eye. He wasn't constantly rubbing it. He wasn't constantly looking at his corner to rescue him. He wasn't throwing any type of signals to them. So I think the fight could have continued. I mean, it was a bad cut, but, his eyelid wasn't hanging off of his face like Vitaly Klitschko against Lennox Lewis. You know, another thing that I thought was pretty interesting is at the end of the fight when Peter Quillen was getting interviewed by Jim Gray. Jim Gray, of course, asked Peter Quillen if you're going to give Rosado a rematch. And Peter Quillen, of course, said it's up to the managers, promoters, et cetera, et cetera. And Gray asked him again. And that's when Peter Quillen, he said something that I thought was pretty interesting. He said, well, I mean, that's just like when you asked Gabe Rosado if he was going to fight a rematch with J. Leon Love. And as you guys know, it was Gabe Rosado who was complaining about that decision. But yet, J. Leon Love, he said right away we could do it again. And Gabe Rosado, he really had no interest in that rematch. I think he should have took the rematch. But that's a whole nother story, I guess. The bottom line is Peter Quillen, he has a lot of work to do. So moving on, let's go ahead and talk about Deontay Wilder. Now, I find it unbelievable that this man's name is Wilder, because when he starts to exchange, ever since he was an amateur, Deontay, he looks wild as fuck when he throws punches. You know, as much as people would like to believe that Deontay Wilder is the next great American heavyweight champion, I just don't see it, guys. I just don't see it. Deontay is not that, in my opinion. Like I told you guys before in the video I did after Deontay's last fight, Wilder, he looks very uncomfortable when he is backing up. He throws just one single jab, and then he throws that jab, and then he leaves himself wide open for any other punch that his opponent is basically throwing. He doesn't look comfortable going backwards, and he gets hit a lot when he goes backwards. He doesn't really have an answer. He needs space so he can throw that big right hand. He needs space so he can throw his lead left hook or right hook, whichever hook that he throws. He needs space. If he doesn't have space, he looks very uncomfortable. Another fighter who cannot stand in the center of the ring and deliver. Okay? I told you guys before, I did a comparison with Wilder versus Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis, he's a type of fighter who was able to stand right in the center of the ring and maybe take a quick step back and catch you with a perfect right hand, perfect 1-2, a perfect combination, uppercut, whatever it is. Deontay Wilder, he still fights like an amateur fighter to me. Like I said, he'll throw a jab. He has a good jab, but he only throws one jab. You know, if you throw on one jab, you're still inviting someone to come in and catch you with something clean. All right? I don't see Deontay Wilder beating a Chris Arreola. I don't. And what's crazy about me saying this is Arreola is acting as if he doesn't even have confidence that he could beat a Deontay Wilder. If you notice, Arreola, he hasn't said anything about fighting Deontay Wilder, and Wilder is constantly calling out Arreola. But just like the Seth Mitchell situation, when Seth Mitchell was undefeated, Chris Arreola, he had no interest in fighting Seth Mitchell. But as soon as Seth Mitchell gets knocked out, of course, Arreola, he was all on board on fighting him. But, you know, even though it doesn't seem like Arreola has that much confidence in himself, I believe that Arreola would beat Deontay Wilder. I used to think about maybe 2 fights ago that Deontay Wilder would probably have a good chance of knocking out Arreola. I mean, don't get me wrong. He could still, this is the heavyweight division. He could still just land one bomb, land his favorite punch, which is that right hand, and it could be over with. But I don't think that would happen. I think if Arreola was to fight him, I think Arreola would get in the inside and he would walk him down. And I don't think that Deontay Wilder is going to be able to handle that in the inside. So that's pretty much my take on both of these fighters, guys. I'm on to the next one.